everybody. All right, so I got more questions about phrasing. I want to do a pretty in-depth lesson about this and really break it down. Now, I apologize. It did take me a long time to get this video. The reason being, I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to address it because there's so many ways to do a lesson like this. And not only that, I have put out a bunch of other videos about rhythmic phrasing. And although I didn't want to repeat myself, I don't really mind doing that because sometimes hearing something a different way, I'm saying it a little bit differently, you know, that can kind of hit whoever's listening differently and they'll absorb the information a little bit better or something like that. So anyway, the problem is when we're getting, when I get a student that is getting into improvisation, they know their pentatonics, you know, they might know even more, might be a little bit better in theory. Usually if I say like, all right, I'm just gonna kind of play this shuffle and I just want you to go for it. And it's usually this. Right? And there's like no direction to what they're doing. And I know I've said that before in a video. And the reason is they're missing this core and very basic part of improvisation, all right? It's so basic that everyone, myself included, steps over that. Now they think they're starting all the way over here and they have to go even further. That's why I also get a lot of like, hey, how do I play faster? How do I play faster? Because I'll like teach a lot of that, you know, tremolo picking stuff, which is a great style. But if you're not using it in the sense of building up this core rhythmic phrasing, it's really useless and it dilutes even more, okay? And then same deal where I get like, what about modes? I want to play modes. I want to learn like the pentatonics all the way up, you know, all my different modes all the way up. And it's great, but when you start having more and more note choices, you start using that because you understand that it doesn't sound really good and it's starting to lose a little direction. So you're trying to add and jam more notes in, which is then diluting the phrasing even more. So let's get into what I do with my students to slowly back them up from what I just played into, I kind of back them into a corner of rhythmic phrasing. And I'll do this, I'll go all the way down. I'll show you the steps that we usually take. So I have a backing track here. Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to use it, but I'll say like, all right, you're starting to have too many options. What we need to do is we need to close these options in. So now you need to rely less on all of the note choices and more on what and why, what notes you're playing and why you're playing them. And that is just building the rhythm part of the phrasing up. So I'll say, all right, we're just gonna go, I mean, if we're in that A pentatonic, we'll go up here. We'll do 10, 8, 10, 8, and then maybe 9 on the third string. So just that, just 10, 8 on the first, 10, 8 on the second, and then 9 on the third. And I'll say like, go for it. And it will start to trip them up a little bit, starts to trip the students up a little bit because they don't have as many options. And they know now it's not gonna sound that good because it's repeating over and over the same lack of motif. Now, if there was a motif in there, that would work, but it's just noodling, but it's noodling with less notes. So it really exposes the fact that that noodling doesn't sound that good. So then when you add more notes to it, it still doesn't sound that great and it doesn't have the same direction. So I'll back them into that corner. Now I've done even more. I've said, all right, all you get are these notes, 10, 10, 8, and then 10 on the second string. And if you know, if you have phrasing down, it should still work. Right, and that is the core. Now the reason a lot of people will listen to that won't sound like their style, that is a basic, that's part of the core, and from there is where you can expand and add a little bit more. If I am to play something like this, I'm gonna back this up a little bit just because I want to give you guys a full spectrum, something like this. Right, that's a little bit more all over the place. But because I'm building up the core of the improvisation, that isn't all over the map. There are little components. There are motifs. I understand what I'm playing and how I want to deliver it. I think that a huge problem with this is you're not really sure what you want to deliver. It's almost like learning a language. You're not really sure what you want to say, so you're just kind of blurting out anything, and that gets really dangerous. So even though the first example that I gave you was incredibly basic, that builds into what I just played and more. And that's how all of the best players, especially in the blues rock genre, that's how they do it. So even though in our ear, when we're just starting, it may sound like it's just, running up and down these scales, it's really not. It's very cohesive. So I just wanted to explain that just in case you saw that first example and you're like, I don't want to play like that. So let's go back a little bit more. So now you only have those 3 notes, okay? If you had those 5 and that wasn't working, we get you back to those 3. And then I'll get the person down to just 1 note, okay, honestly. And then if that doesn't work, I make them flip their guitar over, and all they can do is tap on the guitar, all right? The reason being, you'd be surprised at how many people cannot tap the same thing over and over. If I put a backing track on, I'm just gonna scoot it back here. You'd be shocked how many people can't do that over and over. Now, even in that, you can hear, right? You start to say like, all right, I can kind of hear where that's going, and then eventually be, and then from there you can add a little bit more. But that rhythm is what the core structure is in that repetition. So when we're really getting into some more of the advanced in the blues rock, like kind of pentatonic soloing, it seems that repetition, repeating the phrase and using space are 2 of the things that a lot of guitar players, when they're just starting to get into this, are afraid of. They don't want to leave those spaces between the phrases because it's like empty. It's almost like uncomfortable. It's almost like, I don't know, on a first date and like the conversation kind of dies and you're just kind of sitting there like it's like a little bit silent, a little bit awkward. I honestly think that's the way that a lot of people think about leaving space like that when you're playing. And that's not the case. It lets the phrase be digested, just like in a conversation, or just like I'm speaking now. It's a sentence, and there's a pause, and then a sentence, and then a pause, rather than just this complete stream of words that almost has no direction at all right? So using that space is very, very important. Not only using that space, but understanding the motif, space, motif. Now, the last part of this, I want you guys to try, if you just use those 5 notes, I want you guys to come up with a rhythmic phrase, and I want you to play it 2 times in a row of 2 measures. So when we have our 12-bar blues, the first, it's kind of like 4 lines, 4 bars, 4 bars, and 4 bars. It's kind of like how I picture it, 2 bars of a lick, 2 bars of space. 2 bars of the same lick, 2 bars of space, and then a little bit of change at the end when it gets to the 5 chord. And this is what it sounds like. And I want you guys to do it over and over and work on repeating each phrase. So don't change it. You guys have to get very comfortable with playing a phrase and being able to play the exact same thing back, okay? So let me just pull this back here, guys, just to give you a little example here. There's the 2 measures, and then here. Right, and then the 2 of space, and then the last one. Right, still kind of hints, all right? And now you get into that last example, I'm not repeating, but I'm sticking with the same guidelines. There still is some motif there, right? And I'm allowing myself to play a little bit inside of those two measures of a break. So I want you guys to try that. Let me know how it goes. And as always, send me a video of you guys doing it, and I will definitely write back and just say something that I see that you may need to work on to build this up. I hope this video helped. Guys, thank you for everything, and I will see you soon.